Hello, and welcome to Rory's Brainworks, where we get creative and see if it works. Today, we'll be crafting out of the decorative knots that I did last week. I'll be showing you this Celtic Ring Harness that I crafted and kind of liked, so I think we'll roll with it. Kind of go over the process that I was thinking about while coming up with something, and then showing you how I got there. My mind can be an odd, mysterious, and sometimes just weird place. And you get to be a part of that. How exciting. Thank you, Marie. Now, first, we must address safe, sane, and consensual safety. Be sure to have some safety shears with you at all times. You can always get new rope. You can't get a new life. And consensual. Marie and I are both consenting adults. Communication is key. Now, before we deep dive into this tutorial, we must first thank our sponsors, Knothead Nylon.
Knothead Nylon is the destination for all your premium nylon rope bondage needs. Easy to clean, water resistant, up to 1,100 pounds of weight load, and in a wide array of beautiful, vibrant colors, Knothead Nylon will slake your rope desires. At checkout, put in discount code RORY10 for 10% off.
So I have taken the liberty of already tying up the knots that I will be using for the main part of the harness, which primarily the Celtic ring right here, and the midway point between doing the Celtic ring, which is these triskelions. I didn't want the video to be 20 minutes long and showing you the process of creating this. We'll mostly just get to the point where we'll be using and applying it to the torso. That's some good modeling, Rory. Doing great. You missed your calling there, friend. So I mentioned in the previous video last week how to do these, the Celtic ring, and these are associated with the Celtic ring, the triskelions. I can't help the Nordic blood sometimes, it just comes out. Now what you want to do is start by doing the Celtic ring first and tightening it up to make sure that it is quite taut and tight. You can still be muscled around a little bit, but as soon as we start putting pieces here and here and here and here, it won't be able to self-tighten or self-loosen anymore. And you want to give yourself about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in some of these areas. You can tighten it later on to make it all nice and pretty. But you want these rings right here because these are going to be pulling and going around. So we're going to have inside ropes tightening these inside, and then we're going to have ropes on the outside going around the ribs and the back, pulling them this way, creating a necessary tension for this. Now when you do tie these, you want to make sure that they are tight. You don't want them to be loose at all. If they are loose, then it's going to make the other parts that we're going to be doing on the outside and the inside a complete headache. I had them too loose when I was working on this originally. Ran into that problem. So we have learned from that mistake. We now know to tighten these up rather well. So let's go ahead, put them on Marie, and get started. Now that we have the harness set on Marie, you want to have the top of the triskelion loops just below or in line with the axillary space, because the ropes are going to come up from behind here, grasp in them, go back. So we need to set this distance where they are currently in place. We'll spin Marie around, we'll show you what's going on there. Now I racked my brain and tried so many different combinations because the cream colored ropes need to be going back up, whereas the darker golden ropes are going to be going around and doing the loops. And the thing that worked out the best was the most simple of knots, the overhand knot. So took the ropes, went over themselves, making sure that they are staying in line with themselves, giving us that really nice pattern. Doesn't have to be beautiful to start out because we can adjust that after it has gone through. While it is in this loose state, that is when you want to make your major adjustments to keep the rope straight and keep the design straight. And once you have that desired effect, you tighten that bad boy down.
I learned to say bad boy way too much. Tighten that bad boy down.
Adjust the overhand knot. You want it resting on your 7th spinous process in the back of the head. C7. You can feel it. It's the one that pokes out the most. What separates the neck backbones from the thoracic backbones. You want it resting right on top of that bad boy. Generally found it easier to do the cream colored first, work the inside, and then match the balance with the outside afterwards. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take these, we're gonna toss them under these right here and across opposite way for good friction. We'll turn Marie around and we shall start working on that front. Originally when I had done this, I came down this way, created a cow hitch clasp, and then went down this way, that way, and and then away. And it felt very thin. It didn't have a lot of polish to it. So I instead created the first cow hitch clasp over here and then went down creating that pattern around it. Someone had asked, because I did this actually originally during a live on TikTok, had asked once the ropes were clasped here and here and were coming across this way, whether or not the pressure would be too much on the neck. And you do have the ability to manage the pressure and make sure you can have 1 to 2 fingers that go underneath it so that you don't have pressure on the anterior part of the neck. There's going to be a slight amount of lateral pressure, about right here and here, but not too much, because the cow hitch clasps as well as the overhand knot in the back are going to make it so it cannot cinch, and that's the most important part about them. So we'll begin by doing a cow hitch clasp. I like the style of going over and around, so we're going to do that. So over these ropes, around it. Once around it, we're going to go over ourselves, beneath once more, and all the knots are going to come with you for a little bit. Slight nuisance, but it'll be fine. Create a loop, and then go right through it. What's important is to gingerly tighten this one. Want to make sure that you keep your rope straight. You will know when they are not, because it'll feel awkward. You essentially follow the 2 lines of rope with your fingers, and if it's not a smooth transition throughout all of it, then it is twisted. The great part about cow hitch clasps is that they will not cinch. You can manually adjust them. You can bring them up, you can bring them down, manually adjust them by pushing in and feeding the rope through. However, it will not do that on its own. It's going to be a very important aspect, especially if we're going to be so close to the neck. Alright, so we're just going to go diagonal and do that a few times. I'm going to clasp, and I'll come back to you over here. I am back, and you will notice that I took off Marie's arm. She was being a brat and grabbing at my ropes like she does. So you'll notice as we are halfway through putting it on to this inside portion that it is going to droop inwards, obviously. What you want to do is fasten up your cow hitches and then pull at these 4 angles. Pull out this way, and that'll give you an idea what the opposing pressure is going to make it look like. Now, I have experimented with this before, and what I did do previously was only do half of the inside and then do all of the outside and then finish up the inside. You know what? I'm going to do that this time as well. So we will turn Marie around and we will do the golden ropes. We're going to create an L and move our rope underneath the arm. What we're going to do after we've clasped over here, we're going to come back around, clasp, come this way, and create friction with this L that we've created. So we want this L to essentially be level with the clasp we're going to be hooking in underneath the arm. When you're clasping, it's not going to look like this, and that is perfectly fine. We will do that later. Now this tie utilizes a lot of cow hitches, or girth hitches, or lark heads, or 20 other names that it has. If it wasn't such a gosh darn versatile knot, I would use something else. And it's aesthetically pleasing to me as well. A closer inspection of that, so the rope came down, went over the loop, behind it, over it, around the loop again, and through itself. Classic cow hitch. Let's go back to the back. Now this part is likely going to come down this way, further away from the center, but once we come back around, we'll pull it down towards the center, adding that tension to it. Speaking of tension, Marie, how you doing right now? Awesome. So we will cross over, put a cow hitch on the other side, and I'll come back to you when we come back this way. Now before we get back to the back, something important to note on this cow hitch specifically, and you should pay attention to the rest of them. Normally, when coming this way, you would imagine you would go from an ascending position and then descend. For this one in particular, we're going to be starting from the descending position, do the cow hitch, and exit through the ascending position, which is this rope over here, as we go back around. So, come back around, I'm going to go underneath this L that we created, bring it down, and tighten it. What that's going to do is it's going to loosen this a little bit back here, because we're going to push this up and we're going to knot it together. Makes it just a little bit more clean. Now since this is loosened, we're creating this pressure right here, we're actually going to go back around and make sure that we tighten up this cow hitch clasp. That way we don't have something awkward and loose just hanging out once we've taken care of that looseness. Once we've taken care of that looseness, and pull here, apply more pressure. Now go underneath this bottom rope and around. Lax the pressure a little bit, create a little loop right here, and go through that. We will then tighten that up, and since we are already facing down this way, we're going to follow where the rope wants to go inside of this X friction and to the other clasp. We're going to start at the ascending, create the cow hitch. Now you may be tempted to over tighten this bottom clasp right here because it keeps giving you space and room, but that's only because it's pulling this side towards that way. So be sure when tightening to try out the other side, put some force on it, and see if it's matching up. So spin Marie around and finish up this other clasp. Now I have run into a problem because I did incorrectly I tried to get the very middle. When we created the Celtic Ring itself, I tried to make sure that my ropes were as even as possible, but I have the end of one rope right here and about 2 feet of another one. So I was about 2 feet off from the middle when I created that Celtic Ring. But we are going to run with that mistake, not against it. So this cow hitch clasp is only going to have one rope around it, as opposed to the two. You guys will know, but to the untrained eye, they will know after about 5 minutes probably. But that 5 minutes of ignorance will be great when they're looking at it, before they're like really dissecting. Go like, it's a bit off. And I'll be like, I know, it's my secret shame. Alright, that cow hitch clasp is done. I'll bring it to this back. Oh, now the ropes are even. I'm just gonna overhand knot that shame, tighten it down. Murray has the pressure. Awesome. With that done, we can focus back on the front. Probably gonna need to do a little bit of adjusting. Now, you'll do the descending from here on out on these cow hitch clasps. Now, after finishing tightening up everything, this is where we started. So when I came back around this way, I kept opposite pressure here and then went over this way and started coiling down. Once I coiled down, I did the opposite X tension pressure here, since one of my cream colored was a little bit shorter than the other, like same sin I had with the other colored rope. The longer one continued down to the other ones, and I just braided that together till we got to the end. Relatively simple. When all's said and done, you have this beautiful harness, filled with beautiful complex knots as it is with simple hitches. Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial and had as much fun learning from it as I did teaching it to you. Marie, while under the throes of the Celtic harness, decided that she had seen a will-o'-the-wisp and had gone out into the forest, seeking the Fae. I think I may have to get a new mannequin if she does not come back. We will see. I imagine she will show up at the door later on this evening with some pizza, and I look greatly forward to that, as long as it's not the cops this time. And I think it's a great opportunity to thank our other sponsors of the day, the lovely people over at Patreon. That's patreon.com/Rory's Brainworks, just like this YouTube channel. Thank you for spending your time with me. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to this madness, and comment down below what kind of rope bondage things you would like me to teach you. As always, I'm Rory. This is my brain. I'm fairly certain it works. Be safe and go create some art.